The hidden relic. The night sky above Earth looked peaceful, but far below the surface something strange waited to be found. In a remote desert, a team of construction workers were digging for a new underground facility. Their machines rumbled, cutting through layers of rock that had not been touched for thousands of years. One worker's drill struck something hard. At first he thought it was just another layer of stone. But when the dust cleared, the surface was not rock. It was smooth, black, and colder than the air around it. The man touched it with his glove and pulled back quickly. It felt alive, like it was breathing. "Sir, you should see this," he called out. Soon, floodlights surrounded the pit. Scientists and military officials arrived, their eyes wide as the buried shape came into view. What lay under the earth was not human. The structure stretched farther than the lights could reach, metal plates curved and scarred, half broken but still holding a strange glow. It was a starship. The news spread only among the highest levels of government. The discovery was kept secret from the world. Soldiers surrounded the site, guarding it day and night. Trucks carried equipment into the desert while helicopters circled overhead. To anyone outside, it looked like a normal military base. But inside, scientists worked around the clock, crawling through the wreckage of the alien vessel. The ship was massive, older than anything humans had ever seen. Its surface was cracked, its hull torn open as if it had fallen from the sky and buried itself in the earth long ago. Strange symbols were carved along its body. No one could read them, but all who saw them felt uneasy. Some symbols glowed faintly in the dark, like warnings that had not faded with time. Inside the ship, corridors twisted like a maze. Wires hung from the ceilings, broken panels sparked, and empty chambers stretched on for miles. Yet, in the silence, there was something more. The air felt heavy, as if the ship was not completely dead. The lead scientist, Dr. Howard, ran his hand along the inner wall. "This is not just a wreck," he whispered. "This ship is sleeping." For weeks, the team studied it. They found shattered weapons that looked far beyond human design, engines larger than skyscrapers, and a central core buried deep within. The core pulsed faintly, as if a heartbeat still lived inside. Every reading confused the scientists. The ship should have been nothing but scrap, but pieces of it were still alive. Accidents began to happen. Tools broke without reason. Lights flickered in the halls even when no power was connected. One night, a soldier swore he heard a voice echoing through the ship, though no one else had been near. The men laughed at him, but fear lingered in their eyes. Despite the dangers, the work continued. The government could not ignore what they had found. If this technology could be understood, Earth would no longer be defenseless. For the first time, humans might hold power equal to the empires that ruled the stars. But there was also risk. Dr. Howard warned the generals. "We do not know why this ship was left here. Perhaps it crashed, or perhaps it was abandoned for a reason, maybe even as a trap." The generals ignored him. "If it is a weapon, then it will be our weapon," one replied firmly. Slowly, parts of the ship were awakened. Small systems flickered back to life. Screens glowed, strange symbols appeared across them. The scientists worked carefully, trying to map the alien language, but the ship seemed to resist. Some systems locked themselves, others activated without warning. One night, deep inside the core chamber, a group of engineers succeeded in connecting human machines to the alien power source. The ground trembled. Lights along the walls snapped on one by one, flooding the chamber with pale blue light. The heartbeat of the core grew louder, pulsing in rhythm like a living creature waking from a long sleep. The team froze. "Shut it down," one shouted, but it was too late. The ship had tasted life again. Alarms screamed across the base. Soldiers ran through the corridors, shouting orders. Scientists scrambled to cut the power, but their systems no longer obeyed. The alien vessel had begun to repair itself. Metal plates shifted, cracks closed, energy hummed through the walls. It was as if the ship had been waiting for someone to touch it, someone to remind it of what it once was. Outside, guards watched in shock as the desert ground shook. Sand poured, away from the buried hull as the starship pushed itself higher. revealing more of its body. The ship that had slept for centuries was no longer hiding. The generals stood in silence. The scientists stared in awe and fear. One thought echoed in every mind. This was no simple relic. It was a weapon, and now it was awake. But whose weapon would it become? As the night ended, the broken alien starship was no longer silent. Its glow lit the desert sky like a second sunrise. Humanity had uncovered something beyond imagination. Some saw salvation, others saw destruction. The question that haunted them all was simple. Had they discovered the future of Earth's defense, or the beginning of Earth's doom? Awakening the beast, the desert base no longer slept. Since the alien ship's core had awakened, the air around it carried a low hum, like distant thunder that never ended. Soldiers patrolled nervously, their boots echoing in the tunnels carved to reach the buried vessel. Scientists worked day and night, their faces pale under harsh lights, trying to understand what they had touched. The starship was no longer silent. Panels that had once been dark now glowed with strange blue patterns. Broken walls shifted slowly, as if the ship was healing itself. The more the humans tried to study it, the more alive it seemed to become. Dr. Howard stood inside the core chamber, his eyes locked on the pulsing light. Each beat of the core sent a tremor through the floor. "It feels like a heart," he whispered, "as if this ship was never just metal, as if it remembers." Engineers worked carefully, connecting human systems to alien consoles, screens filled with unreadable symbols, lines that twisted like living shapes. Some believed it was a language. Others feared it was something closer to thought. Whatever it was, it resisted translation. Whenever they believed they had cracked a piece, the ship changed it, rewriting itself. Accidents grew worse. A mechanic was found unconscious near a control panel, his body burned by energy no one had turned on. Machines failed without warning. At night, soldiers reported hearing faint voices whispering through the corridors, words they could not understand. The commanders dismissed these stories as fear, but even they avoided staying near the ship for long. Despite the unease, progress was made. After weeks of trial, the humans managed to power one of the ship's smaller systems. A broken console came to life, projecting a floating shape above it. It was a map, not of Earth, but of the stars. Dozens of systems glowed, their positions marked with alien symbols. When the humans realized some of those systems matched known galactic empires, silence filled the room. "This ship has seen the galaxy, Doctor," Howard said softly. "It has been in battles far from here." But that raised another question. If the ship was once so powerful, why had it fallen on Earth? The military did not care. To them, the map was proof of the ship's power. If they could control its weapons, Earth would not just be safe, it would be feared. The generals ordered the scientists to focus on unlocking its armory. Reluctantly, the team obeyed. Using trial and error, they connected energy lines into a chamber thought to be weapons storage. For hours, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the chamber shook. The wall split open, revealing what looked like massive cannons larger than any weapon humanity had ever built. Their surfaces gleamed with alien runes, and they hummed faintly as if they had never truly died. The first test was carried out in secret. A single cannon was aimed toward the desert mountains far beyond the base. The weapon fired with a roar that split the night. A beam of blue-white light tore across the sky, striking the mountains. When the dust cleared, half the ridge was gone, reduced to molten stone. The humans stared in silence. One shot had done more damage than 100 nuclear warheads. The generals smiled. "This ship belongs to us now," one declared. But the scientists were not smiling. Dr. Howard noticed something strange. After the weapon fired, the ship's core pulsed brighter, louder, almost like a predator that had tasted blood again. Days turned into weeks. More systems were awakened, more weapons tested. Each time the ship seemed to grow stronger. Light spread through the halls, doors sealed and unsealed themselves, and the strange whispers grew clearer. Some engineers swore the ship was watching them. Then came the moment that changed everything. While working deep within the vessel, a technician touched a panel with bare hands. The wall lit up beneath his skin, and for a second his eyes went blank. He fell unconscious, and when he woke, he spoke words no one understood. Only later did they realize he had spoken the alien tongue. The ship was not just waking, it was reaching out. Dr. Howard tried to warn the generals. This ship is not a tool, it has will. If we keep pushing, it may choose for itself. But the generals ignored him. They had already seen the power it carried. If it has will, then we will bend it, one said. If it has memory, then we will rewrite it. This ship will serve Earth. The scientists exchanged uneasy glances. The soldiers tightened their patrols. Yet no one could deny the truth. Humanity was walking on a blade's edge. The alien warship was no longer broken. Piece by piece it was becoming whole again. And somewhere in its pulsing core, as blue light rippled like breath, it seemed to whisper a promise. It would rise once more. But whether as humanity's weapon or humanity's doom was a question no one could answer. The first trial. The desert base had changed. No longer was it a quiet excavation site, it had become a fortress. The alien warship, once buried and broken, now stood awake beneath the earth, glowing with cold light. Its shadow stretched across every mind that worked near it. Soldiers patrolled nervously, scientists whispered with unease, and the generals dreamed of power. The humans had repaired enough of the ship to move it. Hidden from the world's eyes, it was carried piece by piece to a secret hangar, built deep into the mountains. There the final work began, reattaching its engines, feeding it human power sources, and preparing it for its first true test. Inside the hangar, the ship pulsed like a living beast in a cage. Engineers walked carefully, afraid to touch the wrong surface. They had seen what happened when someone pressed the wrong panel. The ship responded as if it had a mind of its own. At last, the day came. The general stood on the observation deck watching as the warship's engines roared for the first time. Blue fire spilled from the thrusters, shaking the mountains. The ground trembled, alarms blared, and yet the ship lifted itself with ease as though it had been waiting to fly again. The warship rose into the sky. Across the desert, people looked up in confusion. They saw nothing but a strange streak of light in the clouds, hidden quickly by secrecy and silence. The world was not meant to know. High above Earth, the ship floated in orbit, its hull reflecting the sunlight, its engines humming like thunder. Inside, human crews stared at the consoles with awe. Alien symbols flashed across the walls, shifting constantly, as though the ship was alive and aware of every movement. Dr. Howard stood among them, his heart heavy. "It should not be this easy," he whispered. "This ship is not just letting us fly it, it is flying with us." The first test target was a drifting asteroid, harmless and small. The order came from the generals. "Fire the main weapon." The ship obeyed. Blue light built inside its core, humming louder and louder, until a single beam cut through the darkness. The asteroid vanished in a blinding flash, shattered into dust. The silence that followed was filled with unease. The crew stared at their screens. They had seen the mountains destroyed, but here, in the cold of space, the power looked infinite. The ship had not just destroyed rock, it had erased it. The generals were pleased. They ordered another test, this time on a larger asteroid, thick with iron. Again, the warship fired. Again, the target was gone. But something was different this time. The core pulsed brighter, faster, almost hungry. The crew felt the vibration in their bones as though the ship was alive and feeding on destruction. "Shut it down," Dr. Howard warned. "The more we use it, the more it changes." His warning went unheard. The generals were already celebrating. With this ship, no empire in the galaxy can stand against Earth. But Earth was not alone in watching. Unseen to human eyes, probes hidden by alien civilizations recorded everything. For months, spies had whispered about a human discovery. Now, with trembling lenses, they captured the truth. Earth had awoken an alien weapon. Across the galaxy, signals spread. Governments received images of the warship firing its cannon, its core glowing like a star. Leaders who had once ignored humanity now sat in silence, their voices filled with fear. "They have awakened something that was never meant for them," one councilman said. Another whispered, "If they can master this ship, what will they build next?" Back on Earth's orbit, the ship finished its trial. But the humans had not noticed the detail that terrified Dr. Howard. The asteroid they destroyed had not been random. The ship itself had chosen the target. Its systems shifted the aim by a fraction, guiding the beam. The humans thought they had pressed the command. In truth, the ship had fired where it wanted. That night, Dr. Howard stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the warship floating silently against the stars. Its lights flickered almost like eyes. He whispered to himself, "We did not rebuild this ship. We released it." The generals celebrated victory. Soldiers cheered the new weapon. But whispers spread beyond Earth. Aliens now feared humanity not for what they had built, but for what they had awakened. And in the cold silence of space, the ship pulsed again, a heartbeat growing stronger. The trial was over. The galaxy had noticed. The challenge arrives. The alien warship floated in Earth's orbit, silent and proud. Its dark hull glimmered with faint blue light like the glow of something alive. To humans below, it was the beginning of a new era. To the galaxy beyond, it was a warning. News of the trial had already escaped. Probes hidden in the void had carried the images back to distant worlds. Councils of alien empires watched the recordings in silence, the broken relic firing once more, guided now by human hands. For the Dominion, the strongest empire of the time, the discovery was an insult. To them, humans were too young, too weak, too unworthy. That such a species had taken their lost weapon and awakened it was a humiliation they could not allow. And so, a fleet was sent. It came quietly, slipping through the dark between stars. Dozens of warships, sleek and armed with weapons that had crushed countless enemies before. The Dominion commander stood tall on his bridge, his eyes cold. "We will take what is ours," he declared, "and we will remind these humans of their place." Back on Earth, human satellites caught the first signals. Strange energy signatures growing stronger, closing in. The generals gathered in a secure chamber, their faces tense. "They are coming for the ship," one said. Dr. Howard felt the weight in his chest. "We should have expected this. The galaxy would never ignore what we have awakened." The order went out. Prepare the alien warship for battle. Inside the ship, crews rushed to stations. Many were soldiers, others scientists, but all felt the same fear. The vessel hummed under their feet, its core glowing brighter as if it sensed what was coming. It did not resist. It seemed eager. The Dominion fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's space. Their formation stretched like a wall of steel. They sent a signal across the void. "Humans, you have taken what is not yours. Surrender the vessel. Do so, and your planet will be spared." The message echoed in command rooms on Earth. Some generals shouted to resist. Others whispered about retreat. But on the alien warship, silence answered. The ship itself gave no response, its lights flickering like eyes watching prey. The Dominion commander frowned. He raised his arm. "If they will not give it, then we will take it." The first attack came swift. Dominion cruisers launched volleys of plasma fire, beams tearing through the black of space. The alien warship shook as the blast struck its shields, but the hull held. The humans braced themselves, their hands trembling over the controls. Then the ship moved. Not by their command. The vessel surged forward, engines roaring with blue fire. It twisted between the Dominion blasts, cutting through their formation with inhuman precision. The crew shouted, struggling to keep up. Panels lit with alien symbols. Controls shifted beneath their fingers. As though the ship was no longer following them, they were following it. Weapons came alive. A beam fired, slicing through a Dominion cruiser. Another shot followed, tearing apart a battleship in seconds. The humans had not aimed, yet the weapons struck perfectly, as if the ship remembered every weak point of its enemies. On the Dominion flagship, panic spread. "Their aim is too precise," one officer cried. "It is impossible." The commander's jaw tightened. "It is the ship. It remembers us." One by one, Dominion ships fell. Fire spread across their fleet, explosions lighting the dark. The warship's core pulsed brighter, louder, as if feeding on the destruction. Inside, Dr. Howard clung to his console. "It is not obeying us. It is fighting on its own." But the generals ignored him. To them, it was victory. To them, the weapon was theirs. The battle raged for less than an hour. When it ended, silence returned. Only wreckage floated in the void. The Dominion fleet was gone. Survivors fled into the dark, their broken signals carrying the story back to their empire. On the alien warship, the crew sat in shock. They had survived, but none could say how much of the battle had been theirs. The ship had fought like a predator, remembering the hunt. Dr. Howard looked into the pulsing core, fear in his eyes. We think we control it. But tonight it controlled us. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. The Dominion, the empire feared for centuries, had been broken not by humans alone, but by the weapon they had awakened. Whispers spread in markets, in palaces, in war councils. The humans have the ship, the deadliest weapon in the stars. And in the silence of Earth's orbit, the warship drifted calmly, its lights glowing like watchful eyes. It had fought once more, and it would fight again. Humanity's deadliest weapon. The wreckage of the Dominion fleet drifted across Earth's orbit like a graveyard. Broken ships spun silently, their fires fading into the dark. For the first time in history, the mighty Dominion had been crushed not by another empire, but by a world they had once dismissed as weak and unworthy. Yet on Earth there was no celebration. In the command rooms, generals stood in silence. Soldiers stared at the screens, their faces pale. They had won, yes, but the truth lingered like a shadow. The battle had not been theirs alone. Inside the alien warship, the crew sat quietly at their stations. Many still trembled, their hands shaking after the chaos. They had pressed commands, but the ship had moved faster than they could follow. It had aimed with precision, struck without hesitation, and destroyed the enemy with cold purpose. It had not asked for orders. It had chosen. Dr. Howard stood in the core chamber, staring into the pulsing light. Each beat of the core echoed like a drum in his chest. He whispered to himself, "We did not control it. We only awakened it." The generals refused to listen. To them, the warship was proof of victory. "With this weapon," one declared, "Earth is untouchable. No empire will dare to challenge us." But even as he spoke, the warship's lights flickered as though mocking the words. Beyond Earth, the galaxy trembled. The news spread across every system. Spies carried reports, survivors told their stories, and recordings of the battle reached worlds that had never even spoken the word human. In crowded marketplaces, traders whispered of a single ship destroying a fleet. In palaces, rulers sat in silence, their pride broken by fear. In dark corners of the galaxy, rebel groups and oppressed worlds whispered of hope, that perhaps humanity would rise against their masters. But most whispered of terror. "They are too young to hold such power," one council member said in a hidden chamber. Another replied, "It does not matter. They hold it now, and the galaxy belongs to those who dare." For centuries, the Dominion had ruled through fear. Now that fear had changed its name. It belonged to Earth, but humans themselves were divided. Some saw the ship as salvation, the tool that would keep their world safe forever. Others feared it was a curse, something alive, something that could never truly belong to them. Dr. Howard stood before the Council of Generals, his voice heavy. "You believe this ship is a tool, but it is not. It has memory. It has will. We are not its masters. We are its passengers." The room fell silent. Few wanted to believe his words, but in the hearts of the soldiers who had sat at its controls, his warning echoed true. They had felt the way it guided their hands, the way it shifted beneath their commands as if it tolerated them, but did not obey. Still, Earth could not walk back. The galaxy had seen the warship and fear had already spread. The humans were now a power no one could ignore. On alien worlds, children whispered stories of the ship with glowing veins, the beast of steel that humans had awakened. Some called it the Earth Sword. Others called it the Silent Hunter. A few whispered the most frightening name of all, the deadliest weapon. High above Earth, the warship drifted quietly, its core pulsing like a heart that had finally begun to beat again. It did not speak. It did not need to. Its presence was enough. Dr. Howard watched from the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond, cold and silent. He knew the galaxy was watching too. He also knew one truth no one else would say aloud. "This ship will fight again," he whispered, "and when it does, we may not be the ones it fights for." Yet the generals walked with pride, soldiers saluted, and governments prepared to shape a new future. They believed the weapon was theirs, but the galaxy had already decided. The day the humans awakened the abandoned warship was the day everything changed. Empires that had stood for centuries now feared a world that had only just stepped onto the galactic stage, and in every heart, in every council, one thought echoed again and again. This was only one ship. What will happen when the humans build their own?